What is good? Welcome back to the Pop Off Podcast. Shout out to all the popper offers. I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long, but we're back in this bitch and we're talking about The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 3. I'm your host, Ralph Compiano, and I'm not joined by the Martian today. He is in a UFO blowing big bags with some zombies. So instead, I'm replaced by my favorite zombie in the world, Nick Bordenero, aka Bordy B, aka Gorky D. What is poppin'?
It's a privilege to stand in for the Martian. I pride myself on being a survivalist, so this
Mm-hmm.
show's right up my alley, even though I never played the game.
So if you are not familiar yet, you should be. I don't know why you'd be listening to this episode, but The Last of Us is HBO Max's newest flagship show about the apocalypse. And I don't know about you, but I was impressed with the first two episodes. I liked the first two episodes, but the third episode, from all of the discourse on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all the critics who got to see it early said, just stick around for the third episode. And then once you get there, you can determine whether or not you're going to watch the rest of this show. And I was going to watch it regardless because of the pod, because all of those kinds of things, just to be in the know because I'm a completist, whatever it is. But I could not be more in on this show after the third episode. Was this your favorite episode yet?
Yeah, definitely. It was the most well-rounded episode. I feel like the first two are kind of an intro to this apocalypse world, and I'd say the three or four main characters that we've worked with so far just kind of been on their journey. So it was nice to step out of that zone a little bit and see how the rest of the world is surviving out there in the apocalypse.
So the technical term that they refer to this kind of episode to is a bottle episode. So there's been bottle episodes in Mad Men, Breaking Bad, really all of the best shows. Like if you think of The Sopranos, Pine Barrens is kind of a bottle episode where Chrissy and Paulie are in the woods, and it's kind of an episode that's really just concentrated on those two. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the rest of the season as a whole, as far as the overall storyline is concerned, but the themes are the most pertinent in a bottle episode because it's essentially like a short movie. And so my main concern with this show was that it was going to be like The Walking Dead, where I think The Walking Dead served a purpose for the first couple of seasons, and then it got kind of tired because the only thing that they were concerned with was how do we kill a zombie better? And that's not the most interesting thing in the world to me. And it's definitely
Those
not
zombies were weak as shit too. Those
right.
zombies were
and
trash
and it's
compared.
also like how do you cure a virus? Like that's not the biggest concern to me. Like I think instead of the show being about how to kill zombies or how to cure a virus, it's about not just surviving but like living in the apocalypse. And I think this episode did a great job of that. It's like this is what it would be like if you were actually alone and you were a hoarder slash what's the actual term for what Nick Offerman's character is?
Survivalist,
A
doomsday prep,
survivalist,
doomsday
doomsday
prep,
prepper. Yes, a
prepper.
doomsday
Yeah.
prepper. Like what that life would actually be like. And he seems pretty happy and in solace.
Oh,
Um,
he's so happy when he looks at the city camera at town hall and
right.
sees that everybody's evacuating. He gets that smile on his face. He's
Yep.
been waiting for that day his entire life.
Right. And he thinks that's what he wants. And I think that is what he wants. Like, he's tending to his chickens. He has flowers. He's cooking filet mignon for himself. Just delicious meal after delicious meal. But he doesn't really know what he's missing. And Murray Bartlett's character, Frank, comes along. I'm curious. I haven't really heard anybody actually talk about this yet. Were you under the impression that he was going to fuck him over? Because I was very nervous about Frank. I didn't really trust him at first. Did you trust him to be a companion and somebody that could live with Bill? Or are you like, oh, this guy's going to punk him? He's got 9 other guys that are coming behind and he's just kind of the first trap.
I mean, obviously, your first thought, and I think this was Bill's first thought too, is this guy's going to see my sick ass pad and try to take it from me or
Yep.
something. Or maybe like a group sent him in first to like see what's going on in there. So you're obviously cautious of people in this world that they're in. But no, I didn't have too many suspicions of him. But I didn't think it was going to be a whole episode type of thing between the two of them.
So I was nervous about him all the way up until the piano sequence. And then even so let's just break it down kind of beat by beat because
When
I
when
mean
you
we
saw
might
him like appreciating all the things he had and like
yeah,
he
when
didn't
he's
seem he wasn't like coveting that in an evil way. He was like, "This is amazing."
right. And I think one of my favorite moments of the episode actually is just like when he gets the meal served to him, and he's probably been scrapping for food for the last 3 years. I think they're 3 years into the apocalypse at this point. He's probably had to fight for every last meal. He's probably eating squirrels and just like hoarding all this like really ratchet shit, like 6-month-old Twinkies, stuff like that. And then he gets served this rabbit meal. Have you ever had rabbit?
I thought it was duck, but no,
I,
I have not had rabbit.
I think it
You're
was like he was like, who knew to pair this wine with this rabbit? And when Bill serves him the plate, he doesn't just like drop it on the table or anything like that. He sets it down on the table and then he turns it too. So that way it's perfectly pointed towards them and he can like appreciate the actual like design of the meal. And I just think like it's those little details where it's like that's what love is. And I thought that was the most impressive part of the show to me. It's like this feels so lived in. Like most TV shows and streaming services like Netflix or Hulu would take this episode and they'd shoot it in a week, something like that, maybe a week, probably like 4 or 5 days actually. It feels like it took them not 20 years to make this episode, but it feels like it took them like 3 or 4 months just like make this episode alone. Did you kind of get that same vibe from like I don't know, a lived in feeling of the episode?
Yeah, they had to build that city as a set and make it
Mm-hmm.
realistic, because that's like his home, his compound, and that progresses over what they cover about 20 years that he's there from the start of the apocalypse to 2023.
Yep, 2003 to 2023.
And so, yeah, I mean, I could have lived there if that was your question. I didn't really.
All right, I want you to meditate on this. If you had to pick one member of the Pop Off podcast roster to be your Bill or your Frank for this kind of situation, you can't say me because that's pandering. Who would it be? You don't have to answer it right now, but it's just something I want to return to at some point. But as far as the episode itself is concerned, so Frank starts to trust Bill. Bill
The
starts.
answer is Hato. The answer is Hato, if you're wondering.
Okay. Well, Hato's actually not a part of the Pop Off pod roster. He
Yeah, he
refuses
is.
to pod. No, he refuses to pod. He retired from podding.
He's like the Tyler Huntley of the Pro Bowl.
He's just
He's on the roster.
okay, fair enough. So yeah, they actually have a nice dinner together. They play the piano, and Bill says to him, or Frank says to Bill, who's the song about for you? Like, what girl does the song remind you of? And he tells them, there is no girl. And he's like, I fucking knew it, you gay bastard. I could see it in your eyes the moment that you decided to let me live. And
Well, he noticed there was no dust on the Linda Rothschild
right,
fucking
right.
what playbooks. Is that what those things are called?
I think we could call it a playbook. Yeah, the little note sheet.
Yeah,
And yeah, from there on, it's like, all right, we're in for it. He's getting out of the shower, and they get their fuck on. And then we fast forward 3 years. He tells him in bed, actually, he's like, I don't, I want you to know I'm not a whore. I'm not just gonna
yeah.
fuck you
Like
for a
this
lunch.
is a one night thing.
I'm sticking around. And I just loved that. That was just like such a there was moments of this episode that were so dark, but like the levity that they provided with the humor was also like very well timed. And I think that's where this show is like really thriving. It's like this is a fucking dark show, but they've been able to interject some humor into it that's just like it makes it a little bit less serious. And that's all that I really need. I don't want the apocalypse to be so fucking damning all the time. It's already a depressing enough concept. I need something to kind of give me a lift. And I think this episode, ultimately, we could talk about the ending and all of that kind of stuff, but this episode was just a huge lift for me. It's like, okay, we can actually find beauty in this kind of thing. Whereas in the first two episodes, it's, oh, these zombies are really fucking creepy, these clickers. And I don't really like Joel that much. He kind of seems closed off. I'm not the biggest fan of, I think it's Ellie. Um, I guess Tess was fine, but I mean, the main characters that we're going to be with for the rest of the season, I don't love either of them, but I fell in love with both of these guys in only 65 minutes of TV.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Joel's partner Beth
Mm-hmm.
till he got tongued by that zombie. That was disgusting.
Tess,
But yeah,
yeah.
and it's gonna be sad to see uh Bill and Frank go, but it was a nice little sunshine in the middle of this apocalypse. A love story. Even some gay dudes can find love in the apocalypse.
Would you return to this episode? Is this something that you would rewatch or like show somebody as like a selling point for the TV show itself?
Yeah, I'd definitely rewatch this episode. I mean, it's uncomfortable for it was was uncomfortable for the first little bit. I got through it obviously just because it was such a great story, and you know, love of your life gets caught in your hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
all you can.
I did want to talk about that too, because I think that was so I mean, their first meeting, I keep returning to it because I think that was like that was the most when I was most unsettled throughout the episode. I'm like, all right, what is this? Like, what are they doing? And it's been 3 years. He's been tending to his garden, tending to his compound, and he loves his life.
The
And when
first tell that he was gay, he had a sea shed in his backyard.
he
He had a little greenhouse.
what, you
They
think
showed that.
greenhouses
I
are
was like, ah.
automatically gay? You're like, oh,
Yeah, I feel like
that's
if I
it.
rewatch the episode, there'll be a bunch of giveaways.
I just saw like the wall of guns and I was like, oh, this is the straightest dude ever, or maybe he's asexual and he just like is in love with fucking AR-15s and that's it. But no, he's like approaching the hole and he assumes that it's a zombie because that's the only thing that he's had any contact with through like the cameras and his traps and all that kind of stuff, which were absolutely fucking elite. Like the traps that he had, the first tripwire that we see where the zombie just literally gets shot in the temple, so tight. But like just hearing the voice, that's all it took to shock him. It's like that's the first voice that he's heard in 3 years. And I mean, he's probably not listening to any podcasts. I think he's just re-listening to like his like vinyls and things like that. And I just thought that was such like it's just those little things about this episode that are I don't know. I mean, I think this immediately goes into like whatever Hall of Fame of TV episodes that I've seen, like right away. And I typically try not to be hyperbolic about these kinds of things, but I can't imagine there being an episode this season that's going to be better than what we just saw. Like I don't know. And is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I think this is one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen, like point blank period. But yeah,
I
I'm
don't think
so
it's going to
impressed
slow
by it.
down or anything. I think it's going to keep going, gain momentum because there's a lot of characters. I haven't played the game, but I've been watching like a little bit of gameplay
Hmm.
past few days since I watched these episodes, and noted this Bill and Frank love story is a complete turn from the
Yep.
game. We should mention that. And question for you, real quick. It's kind of like a boardy conspiracy I thought of on the way home. Do you think Frank was just real lucky to pull up on another gay man's compound and get saved, or you think he might have been a straight guy that was just kind of rolling with the dice?
Oh,
Like got to do
interesting.
what you got to do.
Um, like he learned to love him kind of thing. That's
Or
a good
just
question. I
he
would
knew he had to
say
get up.
I think anybody that knows that much about Rabbit being able to be paired with that wine has to be gay. That's kind of my theory. It's
Yeah, I think they didn't intend it the way that I said, but it was just a little fan
I
fan
know what
fiction.
I know what you mean though. Like he decided that I love this place so much that fuck it, I'll be gay for this. Like,
Like
but at the same time,
put you in that hole, and this big gay cuddly teddy bear is your only lifeline out. You know what you got to do.
I I am not homophobic by any means, but I just don't think that I could get that way. It's just not me. And I'm pretty sure that Bill was the giver and Frank was the receiver, or the other way around. I keep confusing their names, and that means that I would have to be the receiver, and I just don't think I'm capable of that. Honestly, I'm afraid of any contact with my butthole whatsoever. And if it was Nick Offerman and his hairy cock, uh, yeah, I think I'd have to
So,
bail.
so it sounds like you'd rather be Joel's partner kissing the zombie instead of Frank in the hole.
Yeah, I'll take my chance with the zombies instead of getting butt plowed. But no, I mean, I think that their chemistry was like, I mean, if this could have been any two other actors, I don't know who I would have chosen because I think that this was like a perfect casting decision between these two with Murray and Offerman, and that's like another thing that HBO is just they're just on another level, man. I mean, I was thinking about that while I was watching the episode. It was Netflix doesn't have the time for this. Hulu, Peacock. I just don't trust other services like I trust HBO. And I was nervous about this show because I was like, we already committed to reviewing every episode. I have to watch every episode. This is a time commitment. I only have so much time. And I just need to learn to trust HBO, I think. I mean, they rarely ever steer me wrong. Industry, Succession, Euphoria, which I've grown to like more and more as I keep thinking about it and rewatching it. Pretty much every single show that they put out in the Sunday evening time slot has been a hit for me. There's like maybe a couple, like His Dark Materials wasn't really into. I love Station 11, but that was even a Monday show. and it just seems like they have the highest hit rate for that time slot of programming. But as far as the rest of the episode is concerned, I think we have to talk about the big thing here, and that is the suicide, which was absolutely devastating. So let me ask you this. Were any tears shed while you were watching this episode? Did you tear up? Did you come close to tearing up, or did you full blown cry?
No, none of that. I'm a pretty stone-hearted man.
Okay, wow. Well,
Lot
then
takes
you're a cold hearted prick, is what you
Yeah,
fucking are.
takes a lot to make this big grizzly bear cry. But
What does
my
make you
favorite.
cry? Do movies or TV shows ever have the chance of making you cry?
No, I just got to get real drunk and then I just let it flow.
Okay.
I'm a drunk crier,
Mm.
like that, like chicks at the bar. But
I didn't know that about you.
yeah, well,
We
I
get drunk
guess
pretty like we used to get drunk all the time together, and you didn't cry once. Not that I'm aware of.
well, I wasn't much of a heavy drinker back then. You gotta kind of take it too far. But off
Okay.
subject with my drinking.
Yeah.
Where were we again? We
Oh,
were
right.
talking about.
I kind of want to talk about your drinking tendencies now, and how, oh no, how much did you didn't cry during this episode at all?
Oh no, but my favorite part of the double suicide was when he pours the two glasses of wine and like doesn't crush up the pills. And Frank's like, "You already put him in the bottle of wine, huh?" And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yeah, we're going out together, Big Daddy.
Yeah.
We're
It
doing
was
this together."
it was the idea of I have no purpose of living if you're not going to live with me. And I thought that was so beautiful because I mean, I think they took care of each other in a lot of ways, but he was definitely the primary caretaker for the majority of the relationship after he was in the wheelchair. And I think that that's
God,
such like a
getting cancer during a zombie apocalypse would be a real bitch, wouldn't it?
right. I mean, but they had full fruitful lives and I feel like they aged so quickly. That was one thing I was thinking of. It was how much older are they than Joel because they look around the same age when they initially meet in 2009 or whatever it is. But then 14 years later, when we get to 2023, Joel still looks like Pedro Pascal. Like he still looks like just a silver fox. And then these two dudes are just fucking, and they've been living the life. Like they've been eating filet mignon, drinking wine, like probably living in relative peace. I guess we probably should talk about where Frank gets shot. Um, because or I keep
Where
looking
Bill
at
gets shot.
where Bill gets shot. Um,
That was a badass scene too. He's just out there with his deer rifle, just picking people off like they're animals.
I wanted to nitpick that. Did he have to do that? Is that
No,
something
he
that
could
he?
have definitely.
I thought the traps were gonna get them.
I play a lot of Call of Duty, and standing in the middle of the road with a sniper is not the move.
Never works.
At least get some cover, dude. Like, and I was also mad he didn't lock Frank in the room. That bothered me because
Mm.
obviously he has no business being out there.
Well, couldn't he have just like theoretically like sniped from the window? Like he has to have like some kind of sniper tower, but instead he went in the middle of the street where he was susceptible to getting shot. So I was thinking when that was happening, I was like, maybe he has a sort of a death wish. Like this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for somebody to try to fuck with me, and if I get shot, I get shot. But at the same time, like he cared so much about Frank that he didn't want to die because if he died, he didn't think that Frank would be able to take care of himself.
I thought he was dead,
I did too. I
and
mean,
then they
they
flip the script and Frank's dying. I'm like,
yep.
what's going on here? But that's just one of the things you kind of got to ignore. Just like Joel not really aging, even though he's seen everybody he loves die. Tell you what, I wouldn't want to roll with Joel because he's got a bad rap. He doesn't freaking know where anybody is.
And he's really boring too. Like he's not a very fun guy. Like these two, like you could talk about art with them, or you know, they might make you a nice meal. You might get like a some semblance of a kiss on the cheek, whatever it is. You know, I'm just looking for some kind of a human connection in an apocalypse like this. What all right, I want to actually ask you about Nick Offerman. Did you watch Parks and Rec or anything like that? What's your experience with him as an actor?
I didn't watch Parks and Rec in order, but I was a viewer when it was on TV.
Okay, so you're like familiar with like the Ron Swanson prototype of like big burly husky man, libertarian, just fucking lives
At his
for
desk, just growling. Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
eggs and waffles, but he has like a heart of gold kind of
I
thing.
want to. I want to check out his new show. I heard somebody said dropped
Oh
and said that was show.
yeah, Barter is a big fan of Devs, so yeah, I'll give it.
I've been missing Offerman for a while.
Yeah, Devs is an Alex Garland show that's on FX and Hulu. supposedly really good. I need to watch that myself. But yeah, what would you say your favorite part about the episode was? Was it the double suicide and that kind of beauty? Was it the moments we had with Joel and Ellie, or was it their initial meeting when they started singing to one another? What kind of stood out to you the most? What was your highlight reel?
Joel and Ellie are starting to warm up to me
Yeah,
a little.
100%.
Um,
Even like her just like sitting in the car and like that's her first time in a fucking car. She's like, wow, this is like a spaceship. He's like, it's not like a spaceship. It's like a really shitty Chevy. And it's
yeah,
just like things like that are like, oh shit, she literally was born in the middle of all of this, never played a video game before. Like she has no normal life whatsoever. So everything to her is kind of amazing, like about all of the relics that we take for granted.
I think my favorite part of the episode touch on the Offerman survivalist character again. I think that was the most badass. Like everybody calls those dudes crazy
Mm-hmm.
and all that. Like it's not that crazy. Like zombie apocalypse, like ice age. Who knows what could happen? You got to be ready.
Are
And he
you
was ready. He fucking kicked some zombie ass.
are you a low key prepper?
I mean, if
How
I had
many
like
how many cans of bush baked beans do you own?
a doomsday bunker, would be pretty badass.
It would be kind of cool. Even like if you never had to use it, just like
Yeah,
a
even if
flex.
you just like had it like that, like you want to see my bunker.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a bunker, it could just be a man cave. And then like you like just have some bunker materials in there.
Hopefully, I think in the preview for the rest of the season, they touched on there's a lot more like raiders and solo survivalists out there,
Yep.
and that definitely be interesting to see how other people are living.
Well, I was most curious about like the casting with this show. Like I knew that Bartlett and Offerman were coming. I didn't know how long they were going to be in the show for. And the fact that they're only in it for one episode is kind of devastating because I liked their performances so much. But I think we have more great actors coming. I've tried to avoid any spoilers as much as I can, but I think HBO is gonna be able to pull some punches here. We're gonna get some really talented people in this show.
Which is kind of nice about us never playing that game is
Right.
we have what's gonna happen. It's just like a normal show for us.
Well,
But
all
like
right. This has been fun. 22
I
minutes.
got two notes on this. Shout
Sure.
out HBO for pulling ratings and having a great show with no hot people in it.
Literally none. Well, Pedro Pascal is pretty hot, but definitely no
Yeah,
hot
I mean,
women and like
if
no
you're looking
Brad
for an old
Pitts.
if you're looking for an old bull, this is your jam. But
Yep.
and second note, thank God there's no old ladies dragging babies around like The Walking Dead and all that. Like everybody alive should be alive. Like there's
Yep.
none of that nonsense going around.
Yeah. I mean, the youngest person that we have is a 13-year-old, and she's
And
pretty
she's immune.
self-sufficient. Yeah.
She's immune to she's the cure.
I actually, well, before we get out here, one last thing. She's pretty fucking cocky right now, isn't she? Like when she kills that zombie the first part of the episode, I was like, you're getting dangerously close to this thing, and you seem a little bit too curious about what it looks like when it's sliced open. Like, does she make
Yeah.
you nervous? Do you think that she's gonna fuck everybody over, or is
Is
she
she gonna
actually
get
like the
bit like
savior?
5 more times and just be like cool?
Yeah.
Or what they
I,
gotta worry about somebody seeing that bite on her arm and blowing her head off. That's what they're worried about.
yeah. And my other curiosity was I thought she came pretty close to communicating with that clicker when he was trapped under in the basement of that like hideout. Do you think that there's any chance that she can sort of build a barrier between the two of them and like start communicating with them, or are they just fucked and they're just going to take over the world?
I missed that. What was she clicking?
I thought she didn't do it, but I thought that she was pretty close to when the clicker was in that basement and she sliced his head open. I thought that she was going to like have a conversation with him or something.
Talk to the zombie or something?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Is that a reach? That was just me just being a little bit high and
Yeah,
overthinking it.
I think you were trying to talk to the zombie or something.
Okay. Well, you're
But
my favorite zombie to talk to, so it makes a little bit of sense.
was that a zombie making out with the
Oh,
girl this episode? Was that last episode?
yeah, it was the second episode.
So there wasn't much Joel and Lil Shotty this episode,
No,
mostly.
it was bookended. It was that we opened on them and then we closed on them, and it's just kind of like Joel is refusing to grieve. I don't think Ellie's really even aware of the concept of death. Like she doesn't really feel that bad about Tess dying. And the rest of the episode in between is like, oh, well, everybody dies. We might as well live it the fuck up before we do. So I thought it was a beautiful episode. One of my favorite episodes of TV I've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm really excited for the next episode. It's gonna be really fucking hard to not just top this episode, but even match it. And if they can, then I'm all the way in because it's been a lot of fun.
Agreed.
All right. Well, thank you for hopping on. Thank you everybody for listening. We will be back a little bit later this week. And we will see you guys the next time the next episode of The Last of Us comes out, which is going to be this Sunday. No football this Sunday. So lock in on The Last of Us if you haven't seen it yet. I don't think anybody gives a fuck about the Pro Bowl. So it is what it is. We'll have a huge Super Bowl pod next week at some point, and then the Rent Money boys are coming back, and then the Horny boys are coming back as well. So we'll see you guys on the other side. Peace out.